From the CBS4 Sports Studio in Northwest Gainesville, here's Gainesville Game Day. Sponsored by G. Bradley Insurance Agency, the right team for all of your insurance needs. Now, here's Gainesville Sun columnist Pat Dooley and CBS4's own Sarah Cardona.
Okay, welcome into another edition of Gainesville Game Day. I'm Pat Dooley, the Gainesville Sun, and of course joined by Sarah Cardona of CBS4, and went up to South Carolina. We'll talk about that game. We'll talk about Florida's bye week. But it was wet up there, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't a terrible downpour. It
looked bad on TV. I saw it from TV, but give credit to the Gators for still pulling a win in the rain on the road, and to Dan Mullen for having that team prepared for no matter what circumstance comes their way.
Yeah, I mean, it was rain off and on. The rain at the end did get a little bit heavy, but those guys, very business-like approach to it, and that's the way you have to take a game like that against South Carolina on the road. But I will tell you this, Sarah, the rain and the early start time dampened that crowd. That was not a real excited crowd. They weren't that happy to be there. Okay, we'll talk more about the Gators later in the show, but right now it's time to go around the Southeast.
And now it's Around the Southeast, sponsored by Skyfrog Tree Service.
All right, we start off with what really was the most significant thing that happened this weekend, and that was the injury to Tua Tagovailoa. The Alabama quarterback hurt his ankle. They took him in right away, and Alabama didn't play that well afterwards. They got the ridiculous. We won't even get into the. Should we even get into the Guarantano going rogue thing? But that injury is significant, and that they take a long time. High ankle sprains take a long time. They're doing a kind of a theoretical surgery on him, or they did it back on Sunday, where they tie something around. It's called a tightrope. It's too complicated for me, but I don't see him being 100% for the LSU game. Maybe not even playing in the LSU game. And I think it changes my whole opinion of the SEC West.
Yeah, most definitely. They are a completely different team without Tua. They just don't have that offensive power without them. And the way LSU's playing, I don't see how you would be able to compete against a team like that without your best player.
Yeah, you're going to have to outscore them, and that's going to be hard to do. Tua.
Yeah, definitely. And we can't talk about last week's games without talking about Vanderbilt's win to Missouri. I'm not a Vanderbilt fan, but I do want to give credit to Derek Mason. I loved watching his post-game interview because the whole week everyone was talking about how he was on the chopping block, that he should be fired, and he came back with a win against Missouri, an embarrassing win for Missouri. Their passing game was non-existent. They had way too many penalties. Terrible loss for that team.
Yeah, and they let Keyshawn Vaughn loose. I think he had 160 yards, all-purpose yards, and he's got to touch the ball a ton. But still, nobody saw that coming. Missouri, most people were saying, I can see a path for Missouri to win the East because they've got Georgia and Florida coming up in November back-to-back. But now you look at him and go, how do you lose to Vandy? Vandy was terrible, and nobody was going to the games, and everybody hated the team. I just don't – I'm with you. I give Derek Mason a lot of credit for being able to do that. But I take a lot of credit away for Derek Dooley and Barry Odom and all the people at Missouri, because that is an ugly loss. What was not an ugly loss was Georgia winning, but it was ugly for Kentucky because they failed to score in the entire game. But Georgia getting shut out for a half and then coming back, and they were able to kind of grind out a 21-0 win. And I know it was raining there. It was raining in a lot of places. A lot of places they scored more points. But it has everybody kind of looking at Georgia differently again. After the loss to South Carolina, everybody went, I don't know about Georgia. After this game, you get shut out for a half, and you complete one second-half pass. You're kind of like, I don't know what to think about Georgia anymore. I think everybody's perception of them changed.
Yeah, definitely. It did for me. I just don't think they're as good as we all thought they were going to be. Jake Fromm threw for 35 yards. Yeah. That is pretty sad, especially with the expectations that they had for him. And, they got shut out by Kentucky for a half. That's terrible, especially Kentucky's playing a wide receiver as a quarterback. So the fact that
he looked like a wide receiver playing quarterback.
So the fact that they even shut him out is just not that very impressive to me because, like I said, they're playing a wide receiver for a quarterback. Like, you can't expect them to be competitive.
No, and it was ugly. Lynn Bowden, I give him credit for trying and doing and giving every. I just don't understand if Sawyer Smith was healthy, why they didn't play him, but that's a Kentucky problem, and it's not mine. That is around the Southeast. We got to get to the starting lineup.
Let's get started with the starting lineup.
Okay, we start out by Florida getting gashed a little bit by the run again for the second week in a row, and it's a little bit disturbing that this has been happening. I mean, South Carolina goes over 200 yards. Obviously, we know what LSU was able to do, and it worries you. But I will say this: I asked Coach Mullen in the press conference after the game, with those ends out, is that hurting you as much in the run game as a pass game? Because everybody's assuming it's all about their ability to pressure the passer, but they're also guys who set the edges, and they're big physical guys and older guys too. So that really helps them. But and he agreed. He said that's definitely part of their problem. But they've got to get those guys back to be able to stop the run.
Yeah, definitely. They looked kind of lost without them, and now that they have a bye week, it's perfect for them because hopefully they can get those two guys healthy, because it definitely showed that they needed them on defense. And now on to talk about Kyle Trask's performances. He threw 4 touchdowns on the road in the rain. That's pretty impressive. He did look a little bit uncomfortable to me in the first half with the wet ball. Dan Mullen said that he wasn't uncomfortable with the wet ball, but I kind of disagree with that, but he kicked it into another gear in the fourth quarter, and he won, which at the end of the day, that's what matters. And he now has 14 touchdowns for the season, and that ranks 3rd in the SEC, so he's only behind Tua and Joe Burrow, and
yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
He's not behind Jake Fromm. He's only thrown 9 all year, but yeah, I mean, Kyle, early in the game, I thought it was a wet ball too. But, after talking to both Kyle and Dan Mullen after the game, they both said guys were running the wrong routes. They were just, he was like, he didn't know where to throw the ball, and they had to settle down and get that. The thing is, he didn't play a great game, but he played an efficient game, and it was good enough. I mean, one reason that there was a lot of controversy about one play is because he waited too long to throw the ball. But he got that one, another road win for him, and that's certainly good. There was some complaining about the officials. I don't know if anybody heard this back in Gainesville.
I didn't hear about it.
But they were not happy in Columbia, and they blamed the officials for the loss. Officials, of course, did not lose the game. South Carolina did, and there were plays that went Florida's way. There's no question about it. Oh, this was holding. Well, your guy's holding too. But certainly the Gene Delance jumping off sides on the Dameon Pierce touchdown run was a bad missed call. The missed block on Josh Hammond when he was blocking and what should have been pass interference was a missed call. They've admitted to miss those calls, but they miss calls all the time. Get over it, South Carolina. You lost.
Yeah, South Carolina fans were definitely not happy. I saw all the towels being thrown, all the water bottles. Definitely don't think that's a way to handle it. That just looks very bad on that fan base. But I will agree that a lot of calls did go Florida's way. So I do understand why they're upset, but you can't let it get down to play calling. And that was it for the starting lineup. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will tell you what's trending on social.
Back to the action with Gainesville Game Day.
Okay, welcome back to Gainesville Game Day. It's that time of the day when you get to find out what Sarah thinks is trending on social.
And now, here's what's trending on social.
We've heard Dan Mullen say time and time again that he would like to play more Power 5 opponents to make the games more exciting for the fans. Well, Athletic Director Scott Strickland is taking action on that. Attention ADs from the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, or Pac-12. Gators football is looking to add additional home-and-home series against Power 5 opponents. Clemson Athletic Director reached back out saying, "Hey Scott Strickland, call me. Clemson would enjoy a visit to the swamp, and I'm sure the Gators would like a visit to the original Death Valley." It's been one heck of a year for Florida athletics so far, and after the basketball preseason poll came out this week, Florida is the only university ranked in the top 10 in both football, basketball, and athletics. After a win against SEC East opponent South Carolina last week, the Florida team celebrated and they got to show off their dance moves with a choreographed Congo line. And that was it for Trending on Social. Now we head on to Gator of the Week.
And now let's find out who's the Gator of the Week.
Cal Trask has stepped up as a leader for the Florida Gators, and last week he led the team to another road victory against an SEC opponent. Therefore, he is our Gator of the Week for obvious reasons. From the sidelines to starting quarterback, Trask has put up unexpected numbers. For a quarterback that does not have a lot of experience, he's always remained poised no matter the circumstance.
I think that's just, the best way that I play is just have a level head, and you can't expect to make good decisions if you're rattled. Another point I would say is preparation. I seem calm on the outside, but on the inside I know I've prepared for this. I'm very confident on the inside.
Trask has set the school record for pass completions, and he's the first Florida quarterback to throw 4 touchdown passes in a road game since Tim Tebow. He says he doesn't focus too much on personal statistics.
I'm aware of it, but I don't let it fill my head up, what I'm saying, but it just goes to show how much this offense has been gelling, and our communication's been on point, and just being able to produce those numbers.
Trask is taking advantage of the bye week and going back to the basics to really hone in on his skills.
You don't get a lot of time to, necessarily focus on yourself. But the big thing about bye weeks is us just make sure our techniques are very sound and making sure we're doing all the basic things right.
Trask says the team has grown from week to week and that it has shown on Saturdays. The Gators will enjoy this weekend off, but it's back to business next Saturday when they face the Georgia Bulldogs.
All right, we did Trending on Social, we did Gator of the Week, so it's time for a break. And then we get to come back and tell you what the keys are to victory? No, to keys to getting yourself right during an open week. Okay, welcome back on Gainesville Game Day. This is the time when we do the Florida Keys, and usually we're going to tell the Gators how to win, which we've been pretty good at. They're 7-1 so far. This week we're going to tell the Gators exactly what the keys are to enjoying an open week.
And now, here are the Florida Keys, sponsored by Tioga Dental and Orthodontics.
All right, my number one thing would be to get your minds right, and there's a lot that goes into that. Maybe I'm getting too psychologically deep on it. But, we saw in the beginning of that game Saturday, this team was not mentally into the game. And Mullen said that even during practice last week, there were times when they just weren't doing their assignments correctly. You're in week 8, you should be doing it, but the reason you aren't probably has a little bit to do with its 7 straight games. This has been a long, long season already. It started in July, for gosh sakes. And I think these guys are a little mentally tired, and I think it's really important for them to go home or wherever if they want to go home, whatever they're doing during the time they get off, and to get their minds straight and say, hey, look, this is the end of the season. This is everything, these last 3 games.
They just had such a tough 3-game stretch that it definitely takes a toll on your mental health, and everyone needs a break from work. So I think this will be really good for them. They can kind of, get refreshed, see their family that they probably haven't seen in a while, and get some much needed me time.
Key number 2.
The second key, which I think is a very, very important key, is get healthy. You have this whole week to recover. Hopefully all the guys that are injured are working and rehabbing, getting extra recovery in. Just put extra time into your bodies because your bodies do take a toll after such a long season and the kind of guys they're having to play up against. So definitely focus on your bodies, get a little extra recovery time in if you can.
Obviously the 3 guys that everybody wants to know about are Grenard and Zuniga and Kadarius Toney. And everything, they're on schedule to play. Now that doesn't mean they're going to be fine for the game. They're on schedule for it, which means every day they go into rehab and they do different things, put it on ice, put it in a cold tub, whatever they're doing, electronically stimulating what their ankle injuries in the cases of the ends. But they're on pace. There were a lot of guys that got banged up also in that South Carolina game. It appears that they're all ready to go. So I think Florida may be as healthy as they've been all year for this game, and staying healthy is the key as they get through this practice.
Key number 3.
My number 3 key is something that coaches around the country always do when they have an open week. Now Florida's got 3 of them, so they've been doing it a lot, and that is to self-evaluate. Look at what you're doing And again, they've got 100 analysts and everything. They go and they break down all the tape. All right, are we running the same basic formations on 3rd and 3? Stuff like that. I mean, it's really detailed stuff, but you have to do it. You have to make sure you're not being a little bit too predictable. For example, Sarah, has there been a point in the game this year where you've gone, I know exactly what they're going to run here?
Yeah, I feel like there has been.
Then they're being too predictable. So that's the point. And we were calling out some of the plays even in the press box. Now, this isn't as bad as the McElwain era when you could call literally every play out. All right, they're going to throw it deep here. Now they're going to run the ball in 2nd down because they always do. So anyway, you've got to evaluate. This is a great week for that to kind of clean up a lot of the little things.
Key number 4.
And the 4th key is going to be realizing that there's still a lot of work to do. You still have 4 games ahead of you. You still have competitive games ahead of you since they're all SEC games. Well, besides the FSU one.
Yeah.
So they still have.
Don't count that one.
Yeah, that'll be an easy one. But yeah, they still have to put a lot of work in. They can't get too comfortable after this bye week.
Yeah, and no question. They've got a lot of work to do, as you said, and you continue. If you don't get better, you're not going to have a successful finish. That's what they've been preaching all year. Get better, get better, get better, every week. They've got to continue to get better during this bye week, and then, of course, next week if they're going to compete with Georgia, and then, of course, that big Missouri game coming down the pike, too.
And they have Vanderbilt.
Nah. Come on.
They just beat Missouri.
That's a fluke. Okay, so we gave you the Florida keys for this bye week. One we didn't even mention was don't anybody get in trouble. That's a big factor when it's an open week. We'll take a commercial break right now. When we come back, we will tell you who we are picking and who we are grinning about.
Welcome back to Gainesville Game Day. Now we will head over to our picks. And Pat, you were perfect last week. So good job to you.
I consider myself perfect all the time.
The Picks, sponsored by G. Bradley Insurance.
And our first game is going to feature Wisconsin and Ohio State. I am going to go with Ohio State. I mean, they're the 3rd best team in the country, and Wisconsin just lost to Illinois.
Yeah.
So that's pretty bad.
Yeah, well, you just don't walk into Champaign and win, except everybody had until Wisconsin did. That took all the luster off of this game. I'm still tempted to pick Wisconsin because I know they're a better team. They just had a letdown. It was a sandwich game, trap game, whatever you want to call it. I would like to pick Wisconsin because I got a feeling they're going to play really well. But I think Ohio State's a really special team. I think they're one of the playoff teams, and no doubt in my mind they are. So I am going to stick with Ohio State. All right, next up, South Carolina, Tennessee, and I got to be honest, I had a hard time picking this game. Tennessee seems to be getting a little bit better. You saw they gave Alabama everything they could handle on Saturday night. And then South Carolina, their passing game just isn't very good. And I know they talked about how they got to get better with Ryan Helinski in there. But I still think South Carolina's better in the trenches. I think that defensive line will be a difference maker. And I also think what Tennessee's been dealing with all week, which is controversy over their coach grabbing the guy's face mask and everything, and the quarterback mess and the quarterback and concussion protocol, I just think it's too much. I'm going with South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with South Carolina. Also, I didn't really like when the coach grabbed that player and did that. I don't know. I just didn't like that. But I think South Carolina has the potential to beat Tennessee. If they get their ground game going like they did against Florida, I think they can really beat Tennessee.
Yeah, they can really run the ball. And they didn't have Rico Dowdle. I don't think they're going to have him again today.
And our third game is going to be an SEC matchup between Missouri and Kentucky. And I'm still not positive, but I think I want to pick Missouri, especially after they just lost to Vanderbilt. I think they're going to come out and play harder because that was a very embarrassing loss for Barry Odom. And I kind of don't know what's going on with Kentucky. I don't know if Sawyer Smith is going to be playing. And if he's not, then I definitely don't think they're going to win with a wide receiver at quarterback. So.
Well, and that's the thing. I had a hard time with this pick. In fact, I wrote down one team and crossed it off, and then I wanted to make sure I could read it, so I had to write it out like in little crayon numbers. But no, I'm going to pick Kentucky. It's a tough call. Missouri on the road has lost to Wyoming and Vanderbilt. maybe the first school to ever lose to Wyoming and Vanderbilt in the same year. So I'm going to go with Kentucky. They need a win to to get closer towards that bowl game. And of course, the defense played great last week against Georgia. I like them in this game, but it's going to be a low-scoring game, and it's probably not going to be that much fun to watch. All right, next up, it's Syracuse at Florida State. I know we maybe shouldn't put these two teams up there because they're both so bad. Syracuse, to me, has been one of the biggest disappointments of this season. We thought they were a top 25 type team, and they've just been awful. FSU, of course, with another loss. They found a way to lose to Wake Forest in an unbelievable game. You ice your own kicker. You fumble 2 snaps at the end of the game. I think FSU, though, is still the better team. Syracuse has been so disappointing. I think Florida State finds a way to win this game at home. And again, I think they can go on a little run because they've got 4 really easy games coming up before they play the Mighty Gators. So they could easily get to 7 wins. And maybe save Willie Taggart's job.
I'm also going to go with FSU. And I was also back and forth on this one because FSU somehow always finds a way to lose the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know that picking them, I don't have a lot of confidence in picking them, but I am going to pick them. Just because, yeah, like you said, Syracuse has been disappointing this season. FSU needs to win this game because
they do.
There's too much talk surrounding Willie Taggart, and I think it's been very distracting for the team.
Sure.
And I think a win would kind of keep fans hushed down for at least 1 week.
And you would like to think home field advantage will help, but they only had 48,000 for the Louisville game a couple of weeks ago, so I don't know how big a crowd is going to be in Tallahassee.
And for today's most exciting game, it's going to be Auburn and LSU. This is going to be a really good game. I know Pat and I will both be watching it.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to go with LSU. I don't think it's any surprise there. I think they're just crazy good. Their offense is just dangerous. Joe Burrow looks like an NFL quarterback, and I've seen Auburn have some iffy moments.
You were there when they had their iffy moments, yes.
And like I said all season, not trying to be down on Bo Nix, but he's a freshman quarterback, and he plays like a freshman quarterback. And I can't peg against LSU.
Yeah, it's hard to pick against them as well as they've been playing. And, the thing, after watching LSU play against Florida and being there for that game and being at the Florida-Auburn game the week before, I walked away, I said, LSU's going to kill Auburn. It's going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
But somebody reminded me every game is its own game. You got to wait and see. That defensive line at at Auburn is the best one that Joe Burrow's going to have faced. So it's going to be really interesting. And, I'm going to lean towards LSU. I'm the same way you are. It's just hard to pick against them right now. But I got a feeling Auburn may make this a really exciting game here on CBS.
I hope they do. I hope it's a competitive game. I don't want to see a blowout.
No, we want something. And we've been getting a lot of exciting games. I appreciate that. We want one more, at least one more. Okay, that's going to do it for another edition of Gainesville Game Day. What are you going to do on your bye day today? Open date today?
I'm not sure. I definitely am going to watch some football. That's probably all I'll do. I'll probably lay in bed and watch football and eat.
What could be better than that? Yes, the eating part especially. There could be some beverages too. We'll have to wait and see. All right, we will be back next week and we'll be talking Florida, Georgia, man. It's going to be big, 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 big. Make sure you join us here. Pat Dooley, Sarah Cardano. Thank you very much.